Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track by an act named Norman Alexander titled For Me. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the track on the screen on Spotify and we're going to listen through from start till finish. We also have lyrics down here that we're going to look through, so we're going to do that too. Anyways, listen to this track from start till finish. How we think? Let's go. What do we got? Yeah, can I pause it? Good.
When I wake up in the morning, I'm always in my head. I pray to God for my own sake, to try and fix myself. Burning out, I'm exhausted, falling in love too often, and my heart's been taking beating, so I cannot keep going.
So there's a few things that I like so far. I'm trying to sort of take breaks at the end of each section, go between like a verse for a bridge, for example. I like the instantiation of the guitar motif at the start. There's nice effects change on that with the reverb and everything like that. It helps it stand out and gives an interesting tone. And I also really like the sound of the guy's vocals in that mid-range. He's comfortable in his voicing and the transition with the So I Cannot Keep Going into this bridge part here was smart. Helps carry the listener over. With a nice double tracks on the side as well, you know?
Everyone I know, but now I know why. I heard the ones I love, I'm unhealed and broken down. Lonely is hard to be, but maybe I just need some time for me. So used to being wrong, though I'm right,
I like the bass unity with those root notes.
Falling into old routines, but maybe I just need some time for me.
I mean, like the vocal clarity in the mix, studio production, solid. You know, a slightly more upbeat chorus motif despite the intensity, the emotional intensity of the lyrics. There's a nice balance there, though, I think.
All my feelings I ignore, the self-reflections at the door, let my emotions go to war, to find a peace in all the scars. Tired of feeling anxiety.
Nice change in intensity there, switching up the second half of this verse.
Some clarity, some self-discovery, so I cannot keep going down this road, latching on to everyone I know. But now I know why.
And they use the space there just to have a gap before this last chorus section. Even in a track this short at 2 minutes 15 is smart because it allows the listener just having a moment of clarity there, remembering what it's like to not have the song, and then it's brought back and you're like, oh, this is a familiar face, you know, it's good.
The ones I love, I'm unhealed and broken down.
There's these really nice double tracks, overdubs on the fast sides, make it sound nice and full in the mix in the stereo field.
Though I'm right, I still play along, falling into old routines, but maybe I just need some time for me. For me, for me, for me. For me, for me, for me. Maybe I just need some time for me. For me, for me, for me. For me, for me, for me.
And those higher, so really wispy, heavily reverb-soaked like synth parts in that upper range there are a nice little addition at the end. Cool. That's a great song. I just want to give a shout out as well to Norman Alexander for having lyrics, you know, in Spotify, because there's a lot of the people that watch my YouTube channel, for example, don't speak English as a first language. So it's great that you have them there so that if they can read it, you know, without necessarily being able to hear it fluently, if that makes sense, they have that extra bit of clarity there, you know, so good job. Just before I go into the conclusion section, I also want to mention that there is an instrumental and an a cappella version if you want to listen through those too. But this is the conclusion of my review of this track For Me from Norman Alexander. What I think this track is about, I think it is a track about someone who has gone through a lot of tough times, maybe latched onto people in codependent relationships, and has just realized at this point that it's not quite the way to deal with it, so they're looking to look within themselves, take some time to heal, and come to terms with whatever they've been through or whatever sort of like difficulties they've had to endure, so that if they do connect with others or if they do continue further, at least they're in the right direction. They're on the way to feeling better about themselves and the world around them. And it's for them. It's taking care of them for them. And I think that's a beautiful message. And I think a lot of people can benefit from hearing it, regardless of whether they've been through the journey and they can relate, the journey of self-healing, or if they are currently, quite honestly destroying themselves, and they could probably use someone who's maybe been through similar situations to kind of help them get out of that. The vocals from Norman were great. He had clear sort of technique in his head chest voice, very solid there. I really enjoyed hearing, the different bits of vibrato and legato sections, a few of the runs there. The side-tracked overdubs harmonized nicely with him in different parts of the octave range. And I don't think there was a weak point to it. It was tonally consistent, aside from a few points where there was a little bit of extra grit, maybe a little bit of, not vocal fry, but it was more intense with the performance from Norman. And I think that was a smart idea to vary it occasionally, because a lot of listeners in this genre, they like that kind of smoothness to it, but also having a bit of extra oomph in specific lines can kind of get that person to really kind of feel it, if that makes sense, It's smart. And I think that the note choices as well were good for the chorus sections. I think the variation in those melodic sort of sequences in the verse versus the continuity of the hook lines in the chorus were great. The track at 2 minutes 15 is structured well. I liked the minimalism of it in this time, in this form factor, the use of choruses and verses, etc. With some bridges as well, I think we had a verse, bridge, chorus kind of vibe there, if I'm not mistaken. And that's actually not an easy thing to pull off in 2 minutes 15 unless you are, very kind of succinct and to the point with the way that you write. The intro with the guitar parts had a sort of a great resonance to it and paired well with the vocals, And I think that when the bass came in as well as some sort of synth parts occasionally at the end, it just sounded nice and full. This is one of the few tracks where I don't think I would have benefited from percussion, like a drum kit or anything like that, so I'm glad that we didn't have those. And there was variation between the rhythm parts, which were kind of the finger-picked kind of boom, ba, that kind of stuff there, with some little flicky kind of lead licks occasionally on the left side of the stereo field there that were in the higher range on the fretboard. The bass played along with the root notes, and the very occasional synth parts, whatever they were like just upper accents on top of what Norman was doing with his vocals on the sides and in the center. The studio production was great. I'm really happy with the tone of it. It was commercial grade to me, professional, like I can imagine hearing it on the radio. The EQing, filtering of the vocals was good. The guitar sounded nice and full with a little bit of washy kind of reverb in, as well as like it kind of sat there and sunk like you're inside the person's head. I think the bass was nicely rounded and sort of like well behaved in the low end. The synths were like a sub layer, but they added a nice sort of resonance in the upper range. There were no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. It was nice and wide without pumping. The leveling of the elements in the mix was good, and the limiting compression was nice and loud without pumping, but with enough dynamic range. And this is effectively my review of For Me by Norman Alexander. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out Norman Alexander's various social medias and his Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.